Well, a whole lot has happened and is happening over the weekend. The big story, which the police also confirmed through its spokesperson, Frank Mba, has it that the terrorist group Boko Haram has stepped up its game, now using RPG, rocket-propelled grenades, as well as leaving the IEDs. Joining us to look at all of those and see how well they can be nipped in the bud concerning our borders and the use of some of these weapons against Nigerians is Ona Ekhomu. He's a security consultant. Good morning.
How are you today?
Well, I'm great, and not too good a time for us when we talk about security matters. But again, this particular headline of yesterday specifically, what came to mind when you saw this that particular headline?
Well, we have seen RPGs coming in. If you remember the October 2010 seizure at the port, it was the 13 container loads of illicit arms. We had all kinds of grades of weapon, but a lot of that was RPGs, rocket launchers. And so they're coming through the sea borders, they're coming through the porous creeks, they're coming through the porous borders also. In fact, the border agencies have said that they really don't even know how many borders are out there. So it's really very unfortunate. But I think what that says, you just look at the region. It's awash in illicit arms. The Libyan conflict, the now old Sierra Leonean conflict, and all regional conflicts in the area, DRC out there, they are providing arms in here because there are arms merchants around this world who will sell you anything to even kill your mother if you want. And so they will sell anybody arms. They just want the profits. It's not about the morality. It's not about what the arms are going to be used for. So the arms are there. Now, the problem with the national government, this is what we call national security or internal security, is to ensure that the borders are well policed such that all kinds of pernicious weapons don't cross in and harm citizens on the streets. And now, to worsen the matter, aside from the fact that we're not able to know how many borders are there and, in fact, effectively police them, is the fact that you have some persons who, because of pecuniary benefits, also allow, people to come in or, in fact, do their work in a nonchalant manner. So these are all feeding the problem of illicit arms importation. Now, why is that important? Because in a threat matrix, you have three things. You have intent of the bad guys, you have their motivation, what is driving them, and then you have capability. If they have the capability, because you can have all intent in the world, you can have all the motivation, but if you don't have capability, you are no real threat. That is, the matrix is incomplete. You cannot deliver violence. But once a bad guy has even just one AK, now you're talking rocket launchers and RPGs, once they have that, they can hold a whole city hostage. That's the difficulty, the challenge we're facing here.
Besides the legal route now, reports reaching us says that there are some illegal borders. Even just from Adamawa alone, we have about 25 illegal routes into Nigeria. So is Nigeria doing a lot to check those illegal routes into Nigeria?
That, you see, first of all, having identified that you have more than a couple dozen illegal routes, that's already one victory, if I may. And now, once we know that we have more than a couple dozen in one state only, and we have so many border states, around the country. So, of course, that means we need to step up the game quickly, because the problem here is you have to have containment. What are we doing? We are doing combating. We are fighting the bad guys. But what are we doing about containment? We need to contain. What do you mean by contain? You need to seal up. You have to be able to control, let's put it that way, can't seal up, but you have to be able to control your borders and ensure that these kinds of dangerous weapons don't infiltrate and come in here and don't proliferate. Because even sometimes those weapons don't get to the actual bad guys they are destined. You saw the big shipment coming across Chad. We know that Sheikh Mohammed Yusuf, the founder of Boko Haram, he had emirs in Chad, he had emirs in Niger, he had leaders. That's, he had his own, it was a franchise, he had them. They were there, they were operating. I mean, even before the July 2009 conflict that has brought us to where we are today. So he already had establishments, he had organization in that place. And so you had fighters. I'm just saying, you had people who can now be energized to fight his cause, and that's all. That's what I'm saying. So as long as if we seize that weapon there, that means God knows. And then look at who is right above Chad, who is right above Niger. These are conflict.
I'll ask comment here because when we talk about RPGs, first we got to find out that they were using IEDs. And they've left IEDs. Is it a case of running out of suicide bombers, people who will strap themselves and explode? Or is it a case of someone trying to, from afar, without suffering any kind of casualty on its own rank and file, just launch this attack on Nigerians?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to look at Boko Haram history. I gave a lecture recently, said understanding and combating, and that was very profound, because when I went into the organization, I found out a lot of good stuff which needs to be factored into our policy making for combating this terrorism that we have. But the RPG threat, it can be used for so many things, and I don't think really want us to mention them on air. Can be used for so many very dangerous things, so many bad stuff.
Is it easy to combat?
Oh yes, they're even making local, even in Kogi State here. They're near those states. They're even making some local rocket launchers. We've seen so many here already. We've seized in Kogi. We've seized in Gombe State. They're even fashioning it. They even bring the craftsmen here to make them here on ground. Yes.
Is there security formations? Can we contain this?
Even Ogurimagogo will see it right there. I even wrote about that in my column today, but go ahead, sir.
Is our security formation ready to combat this new dimensions now?
Well, they are capable of combating them. Nigerian military is quite awesome. It can take them on. But the point is the military works on orders. Is the will there to combat them? Has the military been authorized to combat them?
But what they are saying,
the military is trying to say, the military is, hold on, there's a problem here, Gbenga. Military is running a law enforcement operation. The military is saying, okay, when an IED goes off in a location, in Meduguri, in Medawari ward, for example, they will run there to investigate. Where did the people go? But of course, the locals are not given information on who is setting up those devices. So that law enforcement thing is not working. Terrorism is not something you use law enforcement approach. You use a proactive approach. You go ahead of the terrorists. You have to step up your game, like the BH guys are stepping up their game, going up to RPGs now from IEDs. Encountering them, you have to step up your game to be ahead of them, because if you respond to them, you just be carrying bodies.